Okay, welcome to another live stream. Very sorry that I was late. Usually I am more on time, but today I had an appointment, so I was running late. Usually I do this at 1 p.m. Eastern. However, still made it on time, so welcome. Thank you so much. Let's give it a bit of time. Let's see who joins us. I do these streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday where I talk about my favorite thing to talk about, Freemasonry. So let's give it a few minutes. Let's see who joins, who says hello. And today, Friday streams, normally I just do an ask us anything kind of a stream. And we're going to do the same thing today. So, really, this is Ask Me Anything. I do have some things I'm looking forward to coming up today. Yeah, I'll talk about that maybe. I also found out today is National Pets Day. So if you haven't had a chance to yet and you have a pet, take a moment to pet your pet and tell them that you love them. I have a cat and I love Bandit. And yesterday was National Siblings Day. Siblings come in many shapes and forms, including our Masonic brothers and our Masonic sisters, if you want to count Order of Eastern Star, as well as our younger siblings in the youth groups. So there's that. So welcome. Let's chat about Freemasonry. This can be an Ask Us Anything stream. Because it is Friday, so we get to celebrate the weekend. I had the chance to meet a few fans today. It's always fun when you're wheeling down the street and a couple of people recognize you and say that they are subscribed to you. That's really, really fun, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you so much to everybody who subscribed to me. As always, if you are just joining us, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Jump in the chat, say hello, and let me know what it is that you want to talk about. The first hour or so is usually waiting to see who is going to join and say hello. And then the second hour usually have specific topics. I mean, the US dollar is plunging, which honestly, if you live in Canada, it's not such a terrible thing in terms of wanting to travel to the States, but there's always economic impacts to that, and Freemasonry does need to care about the economic situation in the world. I think it's incredibly important to keep that in mind always. You cannot separate the success of a Masonic lodge from the success of the communities in which it's located. But in the meantime, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, jump in the chat, let me know how you're doing and what it is that you guys want to chat about on this beautiful, at least here in Windsor, Ontario, beautiful Friday. Let me know if your lodge is doing anything for National Siblings Day. I know normally we have a tendency to think about siblings as in family blood, but keep in mind our Masonic brothers are also, and sisters, are also our Masonic family, and we should take the time to care about them as well. Karma Dorji, I hope I pronounced that correctly, Karma. Thank you so much for being here. Hello to you as well. If you haven't done so yet, I very much hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button. Also, let me know if you have any questions about Freemasonry. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, and that's always what I chat about, which is my favorite thing to talk about. Friday, it's more of an Ask Me Anything stream. So anything that anybody wants to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, please jump in the chat and let me know what it might be, and I will do my best to answer. Thank you, Karma. I truly appreciate it. I've been a Freemason since 2007. I certainly don't know everything. I wish that I did, but I at least have a fair bit of Masonic experience, and hopefully I will be able to try my best to answer at least some of your questions about it. If you're not a Freemason, but you have questions about Freemasonry, I'd love to know what they are and try my best to answer them. If you are not a Freemason, or sorry, if you are a Freemason, I'd love to learn about your Masonic journey. I am from Bhutan. I believe there is Freemasonry in Bhutan, if I'm not mistaken. I can double check. Me too, Dad. Me too. And again, it might though, and if it does, then we as Freemasonry need to find a way to come together and figure out how best to respond to it to help our brothers in what can be a very challenging time. So Bhutan is probably a Buddhist country. I'd be really curious. So I'd love to find out more if there's a specific Masonic or Freemason lodge in Bhutan. I'm using my dad's account. Okay, well, make sure you have your pops' permission, of course, as always. But still, thank you so much for being here. It is truly appreciated. And yeah, I think with the trade war stuff happening, there is unfortunately a lot of there's a lot of what's the right word I'm looking for? There's going to be a lot of economic challenges and hardships, I think, for a lot of people, which is really unfortunate. But I hope that as time goes on, I'm an optimist in some ways. I think, we're going to be okay, and hopefully the auto factory closings are just temporary and don't last for too long, and our people are able to go back to work. Because again, and if they're not, then hopefully we have groups, including Freemasonry and Masons, who are able to help and support our brothers who may be struggling with a lack of work, or their families may be struggling with a lack of work, or whatever it might be. So we will absolutely keep them in mind. Silverback Dungeon Gorilla. Can you give advice to the ones who can't find friends, extremely introverted individuals? Karma, I am 8 years old. Well, then definitely get your dad's permission to use his account. And yeah, but still, welcome to the stream. The stream isn't made for kids. Having said that, I will do my best to keep keep my potty language to a minimum, and not swear. Silverback Dungeon Gorilla. Well, I mean, so this stream, Silverback, and by the way, Silverback, I hope you like and subscribe. This stream talks about Freemasonry. I think for people who are introverted and have a hard time finding friends, one place to look might be fraternal organizations such as Freemasonry, or if you're a female, the Order of Eastern Star, which is kind of the sorority version, Order of Women Freemasons, because purposes of fraternal organizations are to create bonds of brotherhood or even friendship through shared experiences. So if you join Freemasonry, you will go through the same rituals that everybody else in that room went, and immediately you've got a connection to them you wouldn't have otherwise. Right? Because I think one of the reasons it can be hard to make friends as an adult, just speaking, for myself, is it's like when you're a kid, you're all going to the same school, so you have your school connections, and you have those shared experiences. In university, you have university. At work, sometimes you can have the shared experiences of work. But if everybody's doing different jobs or working remotely, that can be harder. So the way to make friends as an adult, I think, even if you're introverted, is to take part in things that create shared experiences. And Freemasonry is one of the things that does that. So I hope that helps. And I hope that makes sense, Silverback. If it doesn't, let me know. But thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. I am in class 3. Is that like 3rd grade? I guess it would be. 6, 7, 8. Okay. Grade 3 was a very, very, very long time ago. So, for me at least. But I think, look, it's okay to be introverted, right? Being introverted is not a bad thing by any means. Because one thing that can mean is maybe you make less friends, but the friendships that you do make mean a lot more. As opposed to extroverted, maybe with them, it's one of those situations where they make a lot of friends, but the friendships don't necessarily mean as much. Who knows? People have different personalities, and that's okay. And the beautiful thing about Freemasonry is it does welcome people with all different types of personalities, including, positive, negative, including like introverted, extroverted, um, shy, outgoing, etc., etc. Intuitive. It's interesting enough, I tried a personality test in some of my Sonic Brothers to see how it went. It was really interesting. Are you from USA? I am from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, which is as close as you can get to the USA while still being Canada. I can see the USA from my apartment right now. I can see Detroit. We're as far south actually as you can get in Canada and still be in Canada. So it's really, really cool. And yeah, I love the States. There's some political things happening in the States right now that I'm no fan of, but that's for another day and another story. I've always said Canada is the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest neighbors in the world, and I truly believe that. Andy Preen, greetings from Germany. Greetings, Andy. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I hope, Andy, you will hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so yet. Freemasonry in Germany has an awesome history, and it might be worth doing a whole podcast about that sometime because German Freemasonry is really, really cool. I believe at 2 p.m. Manitoba time to go to the Legion. Well, I hope you will sort out the world's problems, Dad. Thank you as always for being here. I do not know that school, Andy Prin. I subbed. Thank you so much, Andy. I really appreciate it. Let me know, Andy. I do these streams every Monday through Friday. I talk about Freemasonry. Do you have any thoughts on Freemasonry? Positive, negative, neutral? I'd love to hear them. Any questions about Freemasonry? This Friday stream, though, really is more of an Ask Me Anything stream. So anything you want to talk about as well, please let me know, and I will do my best to try to answer them. Can't make any promises that I'll be able to for sure, but I'll give it my best shot. Also, on a side note, I have my personal YouTube channel where every Monday through, where my personal YouTube channel where every weekend at midnight, I do a midnight movie watch along and pick a scary movie to watch. This weekend, it's going to be Mulholland Drive, which is one of my favorite movies. I don't know what Yendo is. So I'm going to say no to that. But if you, like me, love scary movies and you want to do something else, you have time on a midnight movie watch along, Saturday, midnight Eastern Standard Time, I do the midnight movie watch alongs. That's my personal channel. That's more just for fun. This channel is where I talk about Freemasonry Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, as well as my podcast episodes. I mean, window. Sure. Well, I could do that. Well, maybe even. How do I do? I have to move the stream and that become a whole thing. Plus, my place is, a mess. I'll see what I can do. But actually, I've got some views from my window. Hold on one second. Let me see. Well, still, but I'm not saying that you're an old man, Dad, but you're an old man and you can't be staying up past midnight anymore. You're not as young as you once were. So still, it was a lot of fun having you with us though. And yeah, for this weekend though, you don't have to stay up with me. You're more than welcome to just go to sleep. Men of your age should be drinking tea at 9 o'clock and going to bed at 10 o'clock, not staying up past midnight like a bunch of 30-year-olds. Let me see though. Oh, actually, Core, by the way, I did get your email. Sorry, I will get you that selfie and a picture of Mason the Moose. I'll see about making sure I get it to you today. Because I remember your email. I completely forgot about it. So I'll get that picture for you. And thank you again for your awesome content. I've loved seeing your stuff you do with high altitude investing. Least favorite horror. Honestly, I try not to think in terms of least favorite horror movies, but having said that, because I try to just focus on the things I like. Um, and also my thing is, even if I wasn't a fan of it, somebody put a lot of time and effort into making it. So I'm always super hesitant, but I will say, having said all that, I will say I was not a big fan of the most recent um, the most recent I can't think Black Christmas, the most recent remake. I really loved the one from 2007 and I liked the original a lot, but the most recent remake I was not a big fan of. So there's that. Um yeah, but as a general, I'm one of those people who I will happily defend I will defend um like when you look at all the different Halloweens, even the ones that people think are not the greatest, like Halloween 5, Halloween Resurrection, I tend to be a pretty ardent defender of those movies and much more on the side of liking them. Karma, I haven't forgotten about you. I'm just trying to find in just 1 second if I can. Where'd I put it now? A link to leave on the stream, and you can go and you can subscribe. So this is, I lost it. Dun, dun, dun. We'll go with this one. So this is a picture from my window. Actually, this is a video taken from my window, from my balcony, facing the States during a fireworks we have annually here every year. So I put the link in there. If you want to click on that link, you can do that. Check out that video. Hit the like and subscribe button because that's my personal channel where I have my Midnight Movie Watch-alongs, and I go from there. Actually, Cora, let me know also what your, actually, instead of least, what your favorite scary movie is, or even in general, what your favorite movie is. If I haven't seen it, maybe I'll get a chance to watch it. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. This is our Ask Me Anything, Ask Us Anything kind of Friday live stream. We do different live streams every day, Monday through Friday, but Friday live streams tend to be more the kind of free for all, catch as catch can. My name is not Karma. Very sorry. I'm just going by your YouTube handle. I can't. I hope I don't know if I'm going to be able to pronounce that. Namgel. I'm hoping I got that right. If I didn't, then I do apologize. Having said that, I always try my best to pay attention to what's. So it's funny, I've never seen Dead Poet Society, but it's on my list because I worked for about 5 years. I worked in a jail. And one of my jobs at the jail was I would screen our clients, inmates, prisoners, pick your term. I always call them clients. For our school program. We had a school program which taught people, which had, 3 classes. And I would screen them to make sure that they were suitable for the classroom and that they wouldn't cause trouble or get into fights and blah, blah, blah. And they needed the education. Deadpool, great choice. And so the teacher, who was a really nice lady, I liked her a lot. She was a really, really cool person. But her favorite movie was Dead Poet Society. I guess it makes sense as a teacher. And she was always telling me that I should watch it, and I never got around to it. So maybe one day, for my Midnight Movie Watch Along, I will do Dead Poet Society. Although I feel like it doesn't work well for a midnight movie watch along because that's not a scary movie to my knowledge, right? It's like an uplifting movie, and midnight is a time for scary movies. But maybe we'll still do a watch along with it. This midnight movie watch along coming up is going to be Mulholland Drive because it's available on Tubi. It's free, and it's a really great movie. Please hit the like and subscribe button if you're just joining us. So Tommyknockers was terrifying because my dad scared me while I was watching it. So I was in jolly old England visiting my dad's family, Grandma Lily, and at that point my love of scary movies was well on its way. And they happened to be showing Tommyknockers on the TV in England. And so my dad and Grandma Lily and Mom let me watch it. And as I was watching it, Dad came up behind me and scared me, and then it freaked me out. So I think Grandma Lily got mad at him as well. So his mom. So that's reminds me of that. Although I still like that movie actually, or I guess TV miniseries is what it was technically. I know very little. I mean, I know of Bhutan. I wish I knew more about it. So forgive me for being kind of very ignorant on much of it. To my understanding, it's south of Russia, right? Like it's in Asia, south of Russia. I could be mistaken. Oh, actually, no, it's further. Okay, no, it's more. Well, it is south of Russia, but it's also south of China. Okay. So it goes like Russia, I'm just looked it up. Russia, Mongolia, China, Bhutan. So next to Nepal, apparently. So very sorry that I did not know more about it. I wish that I did, but hopefully this will give me the impetus to try to learn more about Bhutan and try to learn more about Freemasonry in Bhutan. Because again, it's next to China, and there really isn't any Freemasonry in mainland China. It does exist in Hong Kong, Macau, and potentially there's some underground lodges in Shanghai, but I don't know a lot about them. Um, Hong Kong because of the British connection, Macau because of the Portuguese connection. We talked about that in a previous stream. But I wish very much I could learn more. And in the meantime, as always, if you are just joining us, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Let me know how you're doing. This is our Ask Us Anything stream. So I did go to Google Maps and looked, and yeah, I see it's kind of between Bangladesh and China. So it would hope, maybe, who knows, maybe one day I'll be lucky enough and honored enough to get a chance to visit. I'm sure it's a beautiful country. I really, I pride myself on being a traveler, but my travels have been almost exclusively in North America, which I'm very proud of, and I love traveling through North America, but Asia, Europe, much more limited, and I'd love to be able to change that and get over there and get to take some of these trips. So fingers crossed I get to do so soon. Welcome if you're just joining us. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Let me know how you're doing and let me know what it is that you guys want to talk about. This is my Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern live stream where we talk about Freemasonry. But the Friday streams are more just an ask me anything you guys want to talk about. I'm happy to try and answer to the best of my abilities. So any views you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to try to answer. Karma, if you want to let me know what your favorite part of favorite part of Bhutan is, you can let me know. Find Thimphu. I hope I pronounced that right. Capital of Bhutan. Looks beautiful from the pictures that have just popped up. Situated western central part of Bhutan. Surrounding valley is one of Bhutan's, the ancient capital, let's see. So capital and largest city of Bhutan. Looks like it's got a population of 114,551 people. Established as a capital in 1955. So very cool. Thank you for the very awesome and very cool, like I said, chance to learn about something new. It's truly appreciated. And in the meantime, though, as always, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe button if you're just joining us. Trying to think of what would be. Oh, by the way, it is National Pets Day today. So if you have a pet like me, you're lucky enough to have a pet, maybe give him or her a treat. It is, after all, their day today. And thank you to everybody who's hit the subscribe button so far. It's been great to see. Great to see some new people joining in the chat and saying hello. It's funny, yesterday I did a very short chat because I was helping a friend out volunteering, and we did have somebody jump on the stream who said, Freemason, it's time for Freemasonry to die, which did make me sad. But there are a lot of people who agree with that for different reasons, and it might be worth having a discussion. I think there might be even some Freemasons who agree with that. So it might be worth having a discussion later on about what that means and why some people might feel that way. That's okay. They can be loud. You gotta still love your mom and your sister. Somebody who doesn't have a mom, well, I guess you always have a mom, but as somebody whose mom passed away, you'll miss them being loud when they go. So I guess one of those things where you'll miss it when it's quiet. And in the meantime, though, thank you so much to everybody who has joined. I am working on potentially another very short episode, short, call it what you will, for Sunday. And if I get the chance, I will absolutely release it to let everybody know. You can usually find my new release episodes or things of that nature, interviews, Sundays at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every time I talk about things, it's Eastern Standard Time, but I am working on potentially another episode or podcast episode. Once I know more, I'll let you know. There's also a really cool thing happening today at the Windsor Masonic Temple in the ballroom. If you get the chance, I hope that you guys will consider checking it out. It is, so if you live in Windsor, Essex, Detroit, it's a play or a series of readings of monologues from a play. The play is called He's Really a Nice Guy. So the person who wrote the play was actually a head writer on Law and Order Special Victims Unit, which I kind of fell out of it, but for a long time I was a huge fan of Law and Order. So I think that's really cool and kind of demonstrates an awesome get for the Windsor Masonic Temple and for Temple Blooms in particular. So I think that's really awesome. And I'm looking forward to it. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. Welcome back. I hope that you maybe subscribe to the other channel if you got the chance. This is our Friday stream. So our Friday stream's a little bit more freewheeling. It's more of a just ask us anything kind of a stream. So if there's anything you want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry or anything else, honestly, just feel free to ask. I've been a Freemason since 2007. Certainly don't know everything about Freemasonry, but at least I can try to provide some answers based on my Masonic experiences. You know what? And because it's National Pet Day, I'm just going to ask this question. Okay, you changed your... Okay, well, welcome back. Formerly Karma, currently, I'm going to guess Namgel. I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't, I'm very sorry. And that's the question, do you have a pet? It is National Pet Day. I can answer for me, yes, I do. I'm wondering if there's any Masonic lodges that have adopted pets. It's interesting. I knew a few Masons who had service dogs, and they would bring the service dogs with them to lodge, either because they were blind or needed them for emotional support or whatever it might be. And when they were getting installed, that is awesome, Core. Congratulations. What's your cat's name? And when they were getting installed with their officers, so they get like a collar and regalia for themselves, they made a mini set that would be given to the service animal. So the service animal would have it in lodge with them, which I thought personally was really, really cool. And I loved hearing about that. So I believe if you type into Google like square and compass with the ampersand symbol service dog, you should find that interview I did with the owner. Not with the dog, obviously. It would have been a very funny interview, but with the owner. Ibulai, she found me. Namgyal, well, that's okay, Namgyal. Sometimes pets find you at the right moment, like what Cora is saying there, right? Sometimes pets will find you at the right moment. So I'm sure that will happen for you. I've always been a cat person on a side note. I get a lot of people love dogs. I love dogs to, play with and hang out with, but I wouldn't want to own a dog. I like dogs when they're my friends' dogs. I can play with them, hang out with them, give them treats and then take off. Cats are cool because cats are like disinterested roommates where you have them, they're your friends, they're cool to hang out with, but they don't need to be around you all the time. They're good balance. So I love cats. That is awesome. Although I think sometimes cats are a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like cats are probably in some ways I think cats are just as affectionate as dogs, but more um they try to be more secretive about it. Like dogs, it's obvious that they're in the same room as you because they want to be in the same room as you. Cats will follow you into another room, but act like it's a coincidence that you're both just happen to find yourselves in the same room. If that makes any sense. When we know, in fact, they followed us in there on purpose, but they just don't want to admit that they're there on purpose. I mean, to say my dad is in Australia. I mean, okay. I was guessing that, it might be something else because, being an astronaut is a pretty impressive feat. Though I guess in that matter, being in Australia is a pretty impressive feat as well, at least because it's, from what I'm told, 1,000,000 degrees there all the time. We got 4 votes. Let's see what people are saying. 3 yeses and 1 no's. To the people who said yes, maybe let me know what the yeses were. I'd be really curious if you don't know what type of pet you have. Did you guys grow up with pets? All that good stuff. Ever have any pets at the Masonic Lodge or bring a service dog or guide dog to the Masonic Temple? Like I said, I've done a few interviews with Masons who have service pets and service dogs, which is really, 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 really cool interviews. And a good thing of Masonic lodges as well to take the time to, what's the word I'm looking for? To take the time to allow a service dog in and also allow them to be part of the ritual and stuff. Because I'm sure for many people, I've no doubt that their service dog is as much, a part of their family as anything else, as it should be. I'm sure you do. I'm very sorry that you do. Hopefully you get to see him soon. So we're talking about National Pet Day. Let's also give a shout out to Brother George. He was the support animal I was talking about who attends all of the lodge meetings with his owner, and is both an emotional support animal as well as a pet. So if you get the chance, give a toast to Brother George, and you can search for him on, if you go Square and Compass Promotions, Brother George. Actually, what I'll do is I'll leave the link in the chat, so you can go to that episode if you want and give it a like and a subscribe and all, or like anyways, and all that good stuff. I call it Freemasonry on 4 legs. It's funny, dogs are out there practicing Freemasonry on 4 legs, and meanwhile, me and my wheelchair, I'm practicing Freemasonry with no legs. So quite it's either feast or famine. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit that like and subscribe button. Today's live stream is more of an Ask Us Anything stream. I'm very sorry to hear that. I hope at least, if nothing else, you get to talk to him through the phone or something. And if you haven't, then it just sucks, and I'm very sorry to hear that. As always, if you are just joining us, please hit the like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing, and as always, what it is that you guys want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry. I have not. I've always had cats. I think when I was 5 or 6, 7 maybe, we got our first cat named Rascal. Had that one till I moved away from home, and then I got Bandit about, it's crazy to think, but probably about 10 years ago. So I knew a friend of mine, he loved reptiles, and he had all sorts of reptiles. Like he had snakes and lizards and stuff. But not me. I've always just stuck to cats, or to mammals, I guess. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I used to I used to volunteer at this place called Fort White Nature Center, Winnipeg, Manitoba. And at the time I volunteered there, they had this like it had this display center with a whole bunch of different types of animals, like reptiles. It had like garter snakes in there, and because I was a volunteer, I used to, every now and then, I was lucky enough, I could go and I would actually pick up the snake and put it in my pocket, and I'd wheel around with it in my pocket for the day because I very much love snakes. I remember in Winnipeg we have this thing called the Narcissus snake pits, which are like these. Every year during breeding season, they would show up, and they would. I guess it was their mating season, so they'd all show up all at once, and they go in these giant pits in the ground to do what snakes do at that point in time. And so there'd be just probably thousands of them all around, and so you could go see them. So that was a lot of fun because I remember, getting to pick up a couple. I remember somebody who worked at the snake pits helping me out by picking one up for me. So that was really, really cool. So yeah, I don't think it's fair that snakes, sometimes it feels like, get a really bad rap, because they're great animals. Like I said, I think honestly, I probably like animals. As a rule, I probably like animals more than I like most people, to be perfectly honest. So there's a blind lady on my floor that used to have an eye sing dog. It passed about 2 years ago. That's a shame. I'm sorry to hear that, but maybe she'll get another one, or who knows. But I'm sure it was a very good pet, and I'm sure it's very, very good at its job. Like I said, I put the link in there to the description in terms of if people want to check out the discussion on George, Freemasonry on 4 legs, I call it. Now, I guess you can do whatever you think is best, so long as your parents approve. I actually received recently my um, newsletter from Lodge Holy Land. Once again, I'm a member of Lodge Holy Land out of Tel Aviv, Israel. Um, Welcome. I hope that you will hit the like and subscribe button as always. Today's live stream, it's more of a just hangout stream. So anybody who jumps on and anything you want to talk about, I'd love to hear it. Positive, negative, neutral when it comes to Freemasonry or anything else, please jump in the chat and let me know. We actually have I won't be there because I have to be at the temple, but we have a Masonic service happening tonight as well. Masonic services, funeral services are one of those really important parts of Freemasonry and what Freemasonry is. So it's one of those things where it's kind of, you never, I mean, I don't want to say I'm looking forward to, or I'm happy when there's a Masonic service because that means somebody's passed away, and that's never something to be happy about. Having said that, I do take great pride when I see Masons taking part in a Masonic service because it demonstrates that we both love and care for our brother as well as their family and their friends and the people who are at the service, that we care for them as well. So I think that's a really important thing and something worth celebrating. I also have this weekend a ton of paperwork to do for my lodges, so I have to catch up on all of that in terms of, and people don't realize how much paperwork there is involved in being a Freemason, but there is a lot of paperwork, especially if you're a secretary or assisting the secretary or whatever it might be. So I'm actually checking out my emails right now at the moment. I got to say once again, if you get the chance, check out as much as you can Most Worship Brother Cameron Bailey's excellent work that he's been doing lately when it comes to his writings on Substack. It's Emeth on Substack. I remember those ferrets. I forget their names, but I remember those ferrets. All right, welcome back. As always, make sure you have your parents' permission to be on anything online. If you are under the age of 18, YouTube or otherwise. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. 6 votes. Do you have a pet? Let's see what the people are saying. Yes, 67%. No, 33%. So it looks like about 5 yeses. Or looks like, 4 yeses, 2 nos. Which is fine. Not everybody has pets, right? And sometimes pets can be a headache, so don't get me wrong. But welcome. If you're just joining us, hit like, hit subscribe. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you guys want to chat about on today's Friday Ask Us Anything stream. We do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m., but the Friday stream is just an Ask Us Anything kind of a stream. I did receive a spring greeting from Lodge Holy Land. The Grand Master and all dignitaries to the Grand Lodge of the State of Israel extend their warmest greetings to all the brethren of the order and their families. Happy Spring Festival with best wishes for joyful renewing and unifying celebrations of Passover and Easter. That was a very nice card that I received from my lodge, Holy Land. So nice to receive greetings like that. It's unfortunate that we don't. A lot. I wish more lodges did stuff like that. To be honest. No, yeah, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here as always. Anybody else who's joining us, please hit the like button, please hit the subscribe button. Let me know how it's going and what it is that you guys want to talk about when it comes to Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. There's always some interesting things happening, and I always try to talk as much as I can about what's happening in the news. Because again, like my dad pointed out, when it comes to, let's say, Freemasonry and here in Windsor, auto parts factories being shut down, less people working, trouble with the economy. When there's trouble with the economy, people need to save their money, work longer hours, don't have time to take part in Masonic events, all that type of stuff. I heard about that. Welcome, Courtney, by the way. Thank you so much for being here. I heard about that. I didn't hear much about it. I understand 6 people. Let's see if I can see anything on the news about it. Probably because people have days off, so it's easier for them to do it. I mean, I already voted because you can vote as soon as they call the election. You can vote. The difference is before advance polling, you have to know the name of the candidate and write the name in. But I already voted myself, just to make sure, I got it in case anything happens to me. At least I can know I got my vote in, which is a very good feeling. I'm trying to find. Not doing well, but I'm trying my best to find information about that crash in the Hudson. But yeah, that sucks. I heard about it. Obviously, it's very, very sad, and I wish that it had not had happened. I wish it hadn't happened, obviously. I think it was 6 people passed away, so it just sucks. And again, as someone who considers myself or himself a, I guess, professional traveler or semi-professional traveler, pick your term. I'm always, whenever I hear about anything like that happening, I always take a moment to think to all the times I've traveled and how thankful I am that, for all the crews and stuff that make it possible for me to travel safely, or as safely at least as I do, because so far, knock on wood, never had any issues. And let's keep our fingers crossed that it stays the same. Well, I mean, that's not really how it works in Canada, right? In Canada, because we voted in different ridings. So if somebody voted opposite of you in Transcona and somebody voted opposite of me in Windsor, it canceled the vote, which I suppose somebody must have. But, uh, you know, different ridings. Hudson River helicopter crash, 3 children among 6 killed in New York. That's a shame. So obviously, yeah, thoughts with the family, and I guess travel seems to be, and this is something I do think about as a frequent traveler. Travel does seem to be becoming a little bit more dangerous lately. Let's hope that's not the case, or maybe it just seems that way, but I think statistically it's still, flying is still the safest way to travel. But I hope everybody's having a great Friday. I hope everybody is having a great National Pet Day. I hope everybody enjoyed yesterday. It was National Siblings Day. So whether you are celebrating your Masonic brothers and Masonic sisters, if you want to count Eastern Star, things like that, as well as our younger siblings in the youth groups, or if you have actual blood brothers and sisters and familial brothers and sisters, I hope you take the time to tell them that you love them. Working at sea, we always had lifeboat drills, never had to use them, which is a very good thing. I'm happy you never had to use them, but I'm also happy that you took the time to practice just in case, right? Because it's one of those things where, it's one of those things where you want the knowledge, but you never want to have to use that knowledge, I would assume. So credit to you guys for actually taking the time to practice. As also, for um, the passengers, having a crew who knows what to do if there ever was an emergency, it's going to be pretty important, obviously. So that is awesome. And yeah, glad you never had to use them. As I was saying, this weekend, Saturday at midnight, I'll be doing another midnight Eastern Standard Time. I'll be doing another midnight movie marathon watch along. Um, it will be Mulholland Drive, which is available for free on Tubi. So if you haven't got the chance to yet, I hope that you will check it out and join us. It's on my personal YouTube account. And on Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I do hope to be able to release another video of some sort. Probably not a long form podcast episode, but a shorter podcast stream. So I'm excited about that as well. That'll be a lot of fun. And then in about 2 weeks, I guess, right? 2 weeks exactly? Yeah, 2 weeks exactly. I'll be back in Manitoba for the Grand Lodge of Manitoba's 150th celebration. And I'm glad your apartment block has drills for rescue. That's a good thing to know as well, especially because you got a lot of older people on your block. And so if there is an emergency and they have trouble walking or getting downstairs, there's a drill and they know what to do. So that's good. So it looks like following another steep sell-off Thursday, stocks appeared calmer for now and posted strong gains. On Friday, the Dow was up 650 points or 1.64% in afternoon trading. The S&P rose 1.7% and the Nasdaq was 1.9% higher. So that's at least a good thing. And by the way, if you are just joining us, please, as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Maybe I will share this in a few spots, this stream, but this is the Ask Us Anything stream. It's interesting. If I go to YouTube, or not YouTube, excuse me, to that great Twitter machine, what you see a lot is China, especially in the news. Second Amendment is streaming, which is usually a bad sign. Morocco is trending. It's interesting. I was learning a little bit a couple days ago about Freemasonry in Morocco, or more particularly, Freemasonry in Morocco, because Morocco is one of the countries that is Muslim majority, where I guess Freemasonry is pretty popular or pretty well known. I guess it makes sense, right? The Fez, which is again shrine, but kind of connects to Morocco in that sense, or that kind of area. Actually, that's something I wrote about on Medium. Speaking of drills for rescue, which is Masonic lodges and emergency preparedness. And do we take the time in our Masonic buildings to have any type of plan for emergency preparedness, whether it be, um, whether it be, what if there's a fire? What if there's an earthquake? What if there's a tornado? What if there's an active shooter? Knock on wood, that never happens. Do we take the time to prepare? Do we have first aid kits if somebody's injured? Do we know what to do if someone has a stroke? Do we have first aid members, like all of members who have first aid? Do we know what to do if our elevator breaks down and who to call? Like we have all of that kind of stuff, which is worth, I think, exploring and keeping in mind. So, um, emergency preparedness for a Masonic lodge is equally as important as everything else or anything else. But welcome, please, if you can, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing, and as always, what it is that you guys want to talk about on the stream. This is our Friday live streams, which is our kind of Ask Us Anything live stream. So anything you guys want to chat about, doesn't have to be about Freemasonry, but let me actually include the link in there in just 1 second for that emergency preparedness post that I wrote. Because I'm always, if you aren't, and by the way, if you're not doing so yet, I do hope that you will follow me on Medium as well for my written work. I do think I've managed to write some pretty excellent, not to toot my own horn, some pretty excellent stuff on Freemasonry. Hopefully some insightful things, some things that will give Masonic lodges something to consider and talk about. And so let me see if I can track that down. I wrote it in response to Emergency Preparedness Week. Let's see what I can find. This was Emergency Preparedness in 2024, which actually is May 5th to May 11th. So that'll be this year as well. All right, let's see if I can share this guy here. I'm gonna put this down here. And actually, you know what, we can change that up and maybe let's make that the next poll question. Does your Masonic lodge or body have a emergency let's see if I can spell things right there, emergency preparedness plan? And if you don't, is it worth creating one? Yes, I remember that. We have AID machines in our building also. So I think, yeah, that is awesome to hear, right? I think every Masonic lodge should have members who have first aid, as well as a smart serve or equivalent, as well as accessibility training. Like you need all that stuff, right? It matters. It's necessary for a safe and healthy lodge experience. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. And as always, what it is that you want to chat about when it comes to Freemasonry. Positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear it. we do these streams every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Usually, um, Monday through Thursday, I tend to have more set topics which I want to discuss, and Fridays is the kind of Ask Us Anything kind of a stream. So today is the Ask Us Anything kind of stream. So any thoughts, comments, positive, negative, or neutral, let me know. Maybe you are a Freemason and you have questions or comments about your Masonic journey. I'd love to hear them. And if you're not a Mason, maybe you have some questions about Freemasonry, positive, negative, neutral again, and I'd love to hear them. And as always, though, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, jump in the chat, just say hi, and let me know how it is that you guys are doing. Looks like we've got one vote right now, and it is yes, so that is awesome. I'm glad to hear that at least one Masonic Lodge out there has an emergency plan. If you want to put in the chat what the emergency plan looks like, what it is, who has access to it, all that type of stuff, I'd love to hear about it. And maybe we can create our own plan. Or maybe we can learn what the plan is, and maybe other Masonic bodies can take the advice from it. But I'm happy to hear at least one vote for a yes. That could include things like, where do you keep the first aid kits? Does everybody know where you keep the first aid kits? What do you do if there's a fire? Do you have an evacuation point? All that type of stuff, right? Let's just give it a couple minutes. Let's see who else jumps in the chat to say hello. And as always, this is our Ask Us Anything kind of a stream. Tomorrow at midnight, I will have my personal channel doing a midnight movie watch along. So if you can't stay up till midnight, then maybe hang out with me and we'll watch Mulholland Drive together. And then Sunday at 6, I'm hoping to have another episode potentially released. And that could also include inviting paramedics to be in your lodge to give first aid training. We're actually doing that ourselves in the Windsor Temple. We're going to have a paramedic as part of Border Cities Lodge on what day? On the 7th. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be great to have a brother come in and do a paramedic presentation. But I'm going to give it a bit of time. We're going to see who else jumps on. As always, this is the Ask Us Anything kind of a stream. So anything that anybody wants to chat about, positive. Hello once again. Thank you for being back. I'm going to share this stream in a few spots. Let's see if anybody else can jump on, and be prepared for, like I said, if you're subscribed and you're following us, then this weekend, I don't always follow us on social media, Scoring Compass Promotions. We often share, we share a lot of different things on social media of our travels, of what's happening in Freemasonry, of what we are covering on our podcast. And so it'd be great to have you guys join that as well. I'm going to give it a few minutes to see who else potentially joins us. Oh, we got 3 votes. Two yeses, 1 no. To the person who maybe said no, oh, actually 4 votes. 2 yeses, 2 no. To the people who said no, I would be curious to know if maybe you've ever thought about the necessity, or if you ever thought there is a necessity for an emergency preparedness plan, and if you have you brought it up in your lodge before? If you haven't, would you bring it up? And what type of things you think might or should be manifested or included in a emergency preparedness plan? I think that is obviously an important consideration, not just having a plan, but what actually the plan will entail and what will be in the plan and all that good stuff. In the meantime, if you're just joining us, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, jump in the chat, let me know how you guys are doing. This is kind of the Friday streams, which is an ask us, ask me anything kind of a stream. So any questions you have about Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. I've been a Freemason myself since 2007. I certainly can't guarantee you that I'll be able to answer every question, but I hope I have at least some background that I can provide information, especially to people who are Masons, but maybe have questions about their Masonic journey and how best they can proceed with that Masonic journey and get the most out of it. And if they're not a Mason but have questions, then same thing. Hopefully I can do my best to try and answer those questions. If they've heard anything about Freemasonry, sometimes people hear conspiracy theories or more negative things about Freemasonry, and maybe I can do my best to try to answer those questions. What are those things they've heard, whether they are positive, negative, or neutral? I'd love to try my best to be able to answer them. I believe by law in Manitoba, apartment blocks have to have an emergency plan. I think so. I think that's true in Ontario too. I mean, technically, it's probably the case that all Masonic buildings in Ontario have emergency plans. It's just how well are they communicated to the lodges, and do they know what they are, and also how much above and beyond do we go with them. So it's one thing if you have, let's say, an emergency plan where it lists, you have a binder somewhere and it's in some shelf that no one ever sees, and it says 5,000. This is the location of all of the fire alarms and all of the fire extinguishers, and this is how often they're checked, and this is who checks them. It's another thing to have the people know where that plan is, know what's in it, and have the information on hand. Cameron, is there such a thing as Masonic insurance? So, to my knowledge, no. There's not a specific thing as Masonic insurance, but as part of your insurance policy, like my insurance policy for my possessions, it does include a separate section that's dedicated exclusively to Masonic Masonic items and Masonic rings. They're separately valued. And my will has the same thing. It has a separate Masonic section. And there may be some, Masonic brothers that offer Masonic insurance, but I mean, every Masonic building should have, and I believe has, an insurance policy. And individuals, again, should be insuring their Masonic items separately from their other items. How much time does one have to invest? So, first of all, welcome, JR. Thank you for being here. I'm not sure if you've ever been on the stream before. If you haven't, I hope that you will hit the like button and I hope that you will hit the subscribe button. I truly appreciate it. Um, how much time does one have to invest into learning the aspects of Freemasonry? That's a tricky question, JR, because I mean, technically, you could argue, no one, quote unquote, has to do anything. I mean, if you join and you decide you're going to remain as an entered apprentice and, you're never going to attend lodge, you're just going to pay your dues every year, then, I mean, I guess no time. But if you want to, you know, have a successful Masonic career that includes you being a worshipful master, you making an impact in the craft, you making an impact in your lodge, you being a positive force for Freemasonry. I mean, 10,000 hours, right? Like it's no different than being a football player. If you want to be a positive part of the team and contribute to your team's success, then how much time do you need to spend practicing? Well, a lot, you know. And that's not just practicing with your teammates, like when the coach calls a practice, that's also practicing at home by working out, by eating well, by getting enough sleep, by taking care of yourself. In the same way, I mean, if you're a Freemason, part of that investment into the craft is making sure you're getting enough sleep so you can contribute to the lodge and you're not tired. That means studying your ritual on your own, not just during practice time. That means going to the practices. That means showing up early. That means staying late. That means helping to clean up. I mean, it means all of those things and more, right? So there is no specific time limit. It's just a lot. Again, if you care and want to make a positive impact in your lodge. Um, And because, if you become a worshipful master, but you're not really proficient, you never practiced, you never invested any time into Freemasonry or learning the aspects of Freemasonry, then you're not going to be a very good worshipful master and the whole lodge is going to suffer. So I would always keep that in mind. But JR, like I said, I don't know if you've been on the stream before or not. I don't believe I recognize you. But thank you so much for being here. Please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Let me know how it is you are doing. Let me know if you're a Freemason yourself, etc., etc. All those questions. Answer our poll question. All that stuff. But people say, and I'm not a huge fan of this statement because I feel like it's a little bit I feel like it's become cliched at this point. I'm not a big fan of cliches, but I mean, I guess it really is true that you get out of Freemasonry what you put into it. So the more time you invest into Freemasonry, the more you will be able to get out of Freemasonry for whatever it's worth. Without getting caught up in some of the drama and stupid things that are in any Masonic lodge, that are anywhere, to be honest. JR, I hope that did answer your question, though. And as always, if you are just joining us, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing. And as always, let me know anything you want to talk about. You are welcome. I mean, I can say for me, it's usually, even before I started doing this live stream and Square and Compass, it was probably 20 hours a week at a minimum in different areas, maybe 10 to 20, no less than 10, put it that way. But yeah, JR, you are welcome. And thank you, JR, for being here. Um, it is very awesome to have you joining us. And like I said, I think you might let me know if you are new to the stream, because I don't recall seeing you before, at least I don't think I have, but I could be mistaken. When I see JR, my first thought is good old Jim Ross from WWF and AEW fame, or professional wrestling fame, just in general. But welcome everybody. All right, let's give it another. I am not a member, just interested in learning more. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. And thank you for your comments. Yeah, is there anything else that you have questions about? Like I said, have been a Mason since 2000 and um, finding been a Mason since 2007. So about 20 years. I don't do this every I don't know everything about Freemasonry, but been about 20 years, so I hope I've learned a fair bit. And I like to share it. I do also do Square and Compass Promotions, where I do live streaming as well as podcast episodes and interviews, where I try to talk about Freemasonry, both to encourage people who are Masons to be more active and involved in the craft and why it's important, as well as talking to as well as talking to people such as yourself who are not Masons but interested in joining. Um, Sometimes you have people who have heard a bunch of conspiracy theories, stuff like that, which can be a pain because, you know, it's funny because what happens when I find sometimes you have people interested in Freemasonry, but they go online and they get all the conspiracy theory side of things and negative side of things, which is very, very fun. And you have to kind of talk to them about that. But sometimes I find people are more like you, they're just generally curious and want to learn more about the craft. And I hope I can provide answers to your questions. And as always, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Welcome. Would you travel if you could go anywhere in the world? That's a great question, Courtney. Oh my gosh. Where would I travel if I could go anywhere in the world? I got to think about that one because I love to travel. I mean, part of me is thinking, see, part of me thinks Chicago and Glenview because I've been there a million times and it really is like my happy place. I just genuinely love it there. Makes me feel happy when I'm there. But I have been there a million times, and I feel like with your question, it's one of those things where it's like once in a lifetime opportunity where money's no object. You might never get to go back. I know Glenview will always be there and it's not expensive to go, relatively speaking, so I can make it there anytime. I mean, I'd love to visit Russia. I'd love to travel to Russia. I'd love to travel to Asia. I'd love to travel to Japan. I'd love to travel to Morocco, back to England to visit my dad's family again. Um, oh my gosh, this is a tough one. You know what? I'm gonna go with that's a really hard question. I don't know if I'm gonna be Switzerland. Here, Switzerland's beautiful. You know what? I'm gonna go with United Grand Lodge of England. So I'm gonna go with London because I could visit my family and I could visit United Grand Lodge of England, which is an incredible location from what I'm told, from what I understand. Um, and so yeah, I think I would go with that one. But Switzerland would be really cool. I mean, like I said, I wish I could. Um, I'd love to visit Switzerland. I think that would be incredible. So, I just, like I said, I love traveling. I love the act of traveling. To be a Mason is to be a traveler, right? Because back in the day, Masonry meant that you traveled around the world, not around the world, but at least around Europe, to spread your Masonic, to apply your Masonic skills to kind of the world at large. Those were really special. The idea of being a Freemason, it meant Freemason means different things. I've heard different explanations for it. I've always taken it to mean that to be a Freemason is to be somebody who is free to travel from, country to country, place to place, in order to better practice and apply his Masonic craft. Other people think Freemason references a certain type of stone, a certain type of limestone that it was particularly challenging to work with. And so Freemasons were Masons who worked specifically with that type of stone, whereas Masons were people who worked with the other types of stone that were a little bit easier to use. It was called freestone, free limestone, because it kind of grew or was formed free and it was easy to remove. I don't So I've heard different things, but I always taken the statement and the idea of freedom more to mean to um, free to travel, free to make a living, and apply for wages anywhere in the world. So that's how at least I've always taken it and understood it. And welcome to everybody. If you are just joining, by the way, don't forget, if you can, we have our Patreon, which I hope that you guys will join if you get the chance. Patreon.com/Square and Compass, um, where you can support us financially, and that would be of major assistance to allowing me to keep this going. But we're going to give it a bit more time. We're going to see who else jumps in the chat. Thank you, Courtney, as always, for your question. Truly appreciated it. Um, how deep do you find Freemasonry to be? Some day it goes back as far as Africa. Well, that's a really good question. I mean, how deep do I think Freemasonry goes? That's a tough question. I mean, it goes, in some ways, I think it goes as deep as, again, if you want to talk about Freemasonry as it connects to stonemasonry, then Freemasonry goes as deep as 3.5 million years ago when, the first stone tools were formed by our human ancestors. When it comes to that stonemason, when it comes to Freemasonry, I mean, I think it probably dates back, and I tend to pick the start date as 1623 when you see the first examples of stone masons or speculative masons joining stone Masonic lodges. I think that's kind of where I would place it personally. So, yeah, I hope that that kind of answers that question. It's always tough to know exactly how far you push anything back, right? Or how deep you want to make anything. You want to be careful. It can be very easy sometimes to push things, in my opinion, too far or to the realm of woo, if you want to call it that. But yeah, I mean, so 1623 is kind of my simple answer. With I think that's a date, early 17th century, between let's say 1620 and 1630. Because truly we don't know. We only receive what's inside public literature. Well, that is very true. Like, unfortunately, for better or worse, we do only receive what's inside literature, right? So we can never know anything for 100% certain. But I do think it is possible to make educated guesses, in some cases, to make obvious educated guesses. Um, and recognize and understand kind of, it's possible to discern things, I believe, and kind of based on our own experiences and our own understandings and our own history, kind of gauge, if somebody's writing 2 plus 2 equals 5, we should be able to recognize and understand that that is not the case and why that's not the case based on our own life experiences, maybe up to that point. So we're just going to give it a little bit more time. This is our Friday Ask Us Anything stream, so they always tend to be a little bit shorter than other ones. And it's basically just waiting to see who wants to jump on the stream and say hello and ask us anything. It's been great to see some new people joining us. And please don't forget, tomorrow at midnight, we are going to have our midnight movie watch along, which is going to be really, really fun. We're going to be doing, so it's midnight Eastern Standard Time, we're going to be watching Mulholland Drive. And then on Sunday, I hope to be able to release another episode or a short form interview with, or some clips or basically something. So pay attention to that. Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, should be getting more information on our social media accounts. That is the reality, unfortunately, here one day, gone the next. Hopefully, I can stay a little bit longer. Hopefully we're here a little bit longer. We're here as long as, we can live a healthy and happy life. Although obviously, I think whenever we go, in some ways, it's always going to feel too soon, at least for some of us. So certainly for the people we leave behind, whether it's their time to go or not, if your son or loses a parent or you lose a brother or whatever it might be, it's always going to feel like they went too soon. It's interesting when I type in Freemasonry on X, what I see. It's always very, shall we say, interesting things you see. It's funny. I wonder why it is that Blue Sky always tends to be more positive, whereas Twitter always tends to be more negative when it comes to Freemasonry. I'm sure there's a reason. I'd be really curious to know what it might be. I guess it's Passover right now? Or is it Passover right now? I guess it is Passover weekend. I did not know that. To everybody who is, I guess, celebrating Passover, I wish you a great one. I'm going to make that maybe our next poll question, just so we have something else to ask. I guess celebrating would be the right term, right? You could say celebrating or observing. We'll go with celebrating. You can answer that poll question, yes or no. Or maybe do you know any brothers who are, if you're a Mason? Or is your lodge doing anything for Passover? What's your go-to comfort food? That's a great question. Well, so I love coffee. So I mean, I would say coffee and a slice of pie. Or yeah, coffee and let's say coffee and blueberry pie. Or coffee and really coffee and any pie. Coffee and blueberry pie, or coffee and apple pie, or coffee and peach pie, or coffee and sweet potato pie, or coffee and uh, pumpkin pie, or coffee and any other type of pie, basically. So that's my go-to comfort food. I adore coffee. It is my favorite drink, and then coffee with a slice of pie. You can't really beat it. Are you celebrating Passover this weekend? One vote for no. If anybody is celebrating, let me know. If any Masonic lodges are doing anything for Passover, let me know that as well. I'd be genuinely curious to know if anybody has anything happening for Passover specifically, or if any lodges are mentioning anything for Passover. I think it'd be great if we had something. Please, as always, hit that like and subscribe button. I one day hope I get to eat at Jeremy's restaurant. I think that would be a blast. So, Because I keep hearing about how great the food is. So one day I'll have to get a chance to head down there and eat there. I think it would be very much worth it and a lot of fun. So that's on my list to do for sure. But thank you everybody who is joining us. If you haven't done so yet, like and subscribe, as I always say, etc., etc. Any questions, comments you have, I would love to hear them. And anything else you want to talk about in terms of how your day is going, I'd love to hear those as well. Let me know if anybody has watched The Pit. I keep hearing I haven't seen the end of it yet, but I've seen a bunch of other episodes and I do really like it. And I'm looking forward to watching more of it. If you've seen The Pit, though, let me know what you think of it because I am a big fan. We're going to give it a bit more time. Before we end this stream. But if anybody wants to talk about anything positive, negative, or neutral when it comes to Freemasonry, please let me know. Welcome, though. If you're just joining us, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. We talk about Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. Any thoughts you have? Today's stream is just the Ask Us Anything stream, so anything you guys want to chat about. Just waiting to see who jumps in the chat and who wants to say hello. This weekend, I'll be doing a lot more stuff on YouTube, including on my personal channel, a midnight movie watch-along, which is going to be a blast, as well as on Sunday, potentially releasing another episode. So, or another episode of our podcast, or at least a very shortened version of it. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'd love to know what your plans are for the weekend. If you're celebrating Passover, or if your Masonic Lodge, if you are a Mason, such as I am, if your Masonic Lodge is doing anything to mention, mention it in Lodge, or doing a social media post, or maybe having a dinner. I know, I'm a member of Lodge Holy Land, so maybe there's something happening there. 3 votes. Are you celebrating Passover? 3 votes for no. Or maybe, if you know anybody who's celebrating Passover and you are supporting them. I had a Jewish roommate in law school who would celebrate Passover. Every now and then he'd invite me to be involved in like the dinners or stuff. It was so long ago. Law school feels like another lifetime ago, to be honest. So I can't remember the ceremonies that well, but I remember like unleavened bread. welcome, though. If you are just joining us, as always, please hit the like button, the subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you guys want to chat about. Let's give it, let's say, another 10, well, let's say another 20 minutes to just see if anybody else jumps in the chat to say hello before we kind of call off this stream for the day. But that's not to say we won't be back with another stream on Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we'll have more specific topics. Pay attention to social media, where I'll be posting more specific topics, discussion around Freemasonry and actual specific topics, as opposed to an Ask Us Anything thread. Although Rondo jumping in with the question, thank you, Rondo, for being here. I truly appreciate it. As always, how does religious recognition work within the lodge structure? Are y'all just not allowed to talk about religion and politics during a lodge meeting? So that is true. We are not allowed to discuss religion or politics during a lodge meeting when, it is tiled. That doesn't mean it can't be discussed outside of a lodge meeting. And I mean, unfortunately, for better or worse, human beings are human beings, and politics and religion does get brought up. I find usually the tempers tend to flare more on politics than religion, to be honest. So we try to limit those conversations outside of lodge. But people are people, and they're going to talk. And social media is also a huge problem because, I may say nothing about politics in lodge, then leave lodge or religion, then leave lodge, go home, post on something on social media that is, let's say, super positive about Donald Trump, and then another brother who hates Donald Trump sees that, and now, they start fighting on social media, and hopefully that doesn't spill into lodge. But I would say, Rondo, when you say the words religious recognition, one of the things I love about Freemasonry is the fact that it recognizes and in some ways celebrates the different religious faiths of our brothers, in the sense that, any belief in a supreme being, Hindu, Sikh, Muslim, Wiccan, Christian, any denomination of Christian, Muslim, Jewish, all have a place in Freemasonry and are welcome in Freemasonry. We have what's called a volume of the sacred law, which is often by default a Bible, but it can also be an eagle feather for an indigenous person. It can be a Quran. It can be a Torah. I understand there's a Hindu book, which I don't know the name of, but I understand that's been used. And so it's recognized in that way. So, even though it's not discussed, there'll be a book on an altar, and that could be a Quran. And that's a way of recognizing that brother's religion. And also, we care about, so for example, it's Passover weekend, to our Jewish brothers, you may have lodges doing things like wishing them a happy Passover or putting something on social media, just like you do for Christmas, just like you do for Easter, just like you do for Ramadan. So there's recognition in that sense, where we're not talking about it in lodge, but we recognize that our brothers come from different faiths, have different religions, and we try our best to be respectful and celebrate that as much as we can. If that makes any sense, Rondo. I hope it did. Let me know if it did, or if you want a little bit more detail. I mean, I think I've said before, but one of the things that truly, that I truly love about Freemasonry, like genuinely, is the fact that it welcomes men of and women, again, Eastern Star, etc., etc. Um, love of it welcomes men of all religious faiths and backgrounds, and I think that, especially in 2025, is a really really special thing. So it is. Now, not every lodge will open it on a specific section, even though they're supposed to, because I mean they may just not be paying attention or be lazy or whatever it is. But yes, it is on specific sections when they open it, depending on what in Ontario specifically, it depends what degree you're in. So if you're in the first degree, the volume of sacred law is open to a specific section versus second degree versus third degree. I forget, to be honest, the sections now. One of them is, oh God, I can't. How wonderful it is to see brothers dwell together in harmony. I can't think of the name of that section now, but so yeah, it's opened. If it's closed, that means the lodge is closed or at refreshments. If it's open, that means the lodge is open and at work. And oftentimes, what it will be is if there's a brother who has you know, let's say he's Muslim and brings in a Quran or has his own holy book. There may not always be a specific section in that book, but it might be open to a section that's important to that brother if he's being initiated. Or he may decide and pick the section that he wants it to be on. And I'm sure, and I used to know this, I'm sure there's a reason why particular sections were picked, but I cannot think of them now, to be honest. But that would be actually a fun podcast episode to do. I've also been thinking of doing a episode, not a podcast episode, but actually doing a written thing talking about The Pit, the TV show starring Noah Wiley. Um, because honestly, it made me, as almost everything does, think of Freemasonry. I'm not going to go into it too much now, but if you haven't seen that episode, that show, you guys should check it out. And I can maybe at some point write about why it made me think of my Masonic experiences and how I think the two connect. What if the Muslim brother actually knew a particular verse that is equivalent and can serve the same purpose? I mean, that would be fine. That could work. Um, sure. I mean, I think because again, I'm speaking jurisdictionally, right? So I'm speaking of Ontario. There may be some jurisdictions where you have, let's say, Muslim majority, like Morocco, for example, where they may. My assumption would be in those situations they may automatically use a Quran as like the default instead of a Bible because it's Muslim majority, and they may have actually specific sections of the Quran that they turn to the same way we have a Bible. But that does make sense to me that if you told the Muslim brother like this is the section we normally open to um, for this degree, he may know of the equivalent. And same thing with Jewish and Torah, or again Hindu, or in some cases you kind of can't do that, like in the case of a First Nations brother where they've used an eagle feather in place of the volume of the sacred laws. Then it's not about turning to you can't turn the eagle feather, it's just put on the altar. But that makes sense to me, and I think that would be a really nice thing for a lodge to think about and ask in advance, right? Hopefully lodges are taking the time to think about some of these things in advance. um, it's hard. There's always a million things to think about. So, yeah. And I know, I don't get me wrong. I know if you are a Mason and you're a ritual master and you have to organize a degree, you're thinking about a million things. Then you have to think about that one extra thing of the equivalent sections in different holy books. But the world turns on details like that sometimes. So I understand why it may not happen, and I want to try to be as kind of, as understanding as you possibly can be. But I also understand. I also understand why, from the candidate's perspective, why you might want that to happen. So, Rondo, I hope that that helped answer your questions as well. And thank you very much for the questions. I really appreciate it. Let me know how you're doing, how it's going. Looking forward to your weekend. I hope you have as beautiful a day where you are as we've got where I am over here in Windsor. It's absolutely gorgeous day today. So, no, that does, and I agree with you completely. That does make a lot of sense. So, I'm always, as somebody who has been absolutely at various points in my Masonic career, absolutely exhausted to the point where, if somebody tells me, you know, you know, gives me one more thing to do, that's the moment I'm gonna like lose my shit. I'm always super hesitant to say like a lodge should do this or should do that because I know how busy it can get. But um, I do think you're absolutely right. And if you are a Mason, a master, and you do have the time, I think Rondo's suggestion 100% makes sense and 100% would make a more impactful experience for the candidates. So I know we're all busy. I know you're busy, but it only takes a second to ask, and just like Rondo says, it will absolutely, or I can't see how it wouldn't create a more impactful experience. And again, it's very easy to under, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very easy to underestimate the impact of little things and little moments like that and why those things matter. So, yeah. Welcome. If you are just joining us, please hit that like button. Please hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you guys are doing. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today's stream is the Ask Us Anything stream, where it's just taking comments. Doesn't even have to be questions, just comments, thoughts, what people are thinking. even piece of advice like Rondo had a great piece of advice and something that would make a big deal or make an impact in a new Mason's career. So we appreciate that very much. Douglas Marks, hey everybody, happy Friday. Happy Friday, Douglas. I hope you're doing well. Let me know if you're looking forward to your weekend. By the way, please hit the like button and well, I think you already subscribed, but please hit the like button, answer our poll question, etc., etc. What do I know about the Illuminati? Very, very little. Practically nothing, to be honest. Other than we always get lumped in with them by conspiracy theorists for some reason, which is a pain in the butt. Oops. But otherwise, I know very, very little about them. I think it might be worth learning more because, again, we so often find ourselves linked in with them. Um, but I'd like to learn more about them. I think they existed primarily in the 19th century, like the 1800s. I don't know the precise dates. I don't believe they exist anymore. I think their order kind of went out of existence, which hopefully Freemasonry doesn't follow the same suit. I really do want to talk about the Pit, the TV show. Um, the way Abbott sees. I'm just reading from a review of the show. They, being doctors, are at war. They're at war against human cruelty and stupidity, against time, against death itself, and the only thing that keeps them going is medicine. I tend to think the only thing that can maybe keep us going or me going is Freemasonry because it does feel like a war. I'm not sure what KFP is. Oddfellows, yes. I mean, Oddfellows and Freemasons used to be pretty heavily connected. And if you look at Oddfellows, if you know anything about Freemasonry and you look at Oddfellows rituals and all of their stuff, it looks pretty similar, which is very interesting to see. I've known several Oddfellows over the years. Knights of Columbus, I know some of them. The Moose, I've known some of them. We're all kind of struggling with the same kind of stuff. It's not exclusive to any one organization. Elks, never, to my knowledge, I don't know any Elks. Though again, not everyone's going to just advertise their fraternal memberships. But Oddfellows, yes. Knights of Columbus, yes. Moose, yes. Rotary, which is not really a fraternal organization, but Moose, yes. A couple sororities I've known members of as well. Everybody unfortunately is kind of struggling though with the same stuff, whether you're Mason, Knights of Columbus, Oddfellows. The book Bowling Alone does a pretty decent job at describing what the struggles are and why people are struggling or why these groups are struggling and how hopefully we can turn things around, though whether we will be able to or not, who knows. As always, Courtney, I hope you'll join tomorrow midnight on my other channel, my personal channel, where we are going to be talking about Freemasonry. It's fascinating to me too. It's one of the things I love. It's maybe the thing I love the most. Who knows? And who knows why? But I genuinely love it. and think that it can make the world a better place. Despite all of the problems, issues, and all the shit in the world, that it's a constant fight to make better. Welcome, by the way. If you are just joining us, please hit that like and subscribe button. I'm having a blast. This is my Friday stream. I do these streams every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about Freemasonry. Positive, negative, neutral, anything you guys want to talk about when it comes to it, any questions you have, any comments you have. I will do my best to answer them. I've been a Mason since 2007. I don't know everything by any means, but I try my best to answer what questions I can, certainly at least basing them on my own personal experiences here in Windsor and the um, Ontario jurisdiction. But I will do my best to answer questions from anybody or just talk about anything we want. One of the fun things about these streams is just hanging out, chatting with people. I do have some events happening at the Masonic Temple tonight. Windsor, which I'm looking forward to, and it should be really exciting. I always love when events happen there. Highest Peak of Masonry does one proceed. I'm not sure what, like, so technically, Courtney, I'm not sure exactly what you mean. Forgive me. When you're at the highest level of Freemasonry, I suppose there's nowhere else to proceed because kind of by definition, you're at the highest peak. What I'd say is the highest peak of Freemasonry, though, isn't a particular degree. It's not a particular, like a lot of people will say it's the 33rd degree or something like that. It's not that. The highest peak of Freemasonry, the moment that you're perfect in Freemasonry is, I'm going to use the example from Friday Night Lights, one of my favorite movies, certainly my favorite sports movie, Friday Night Lights, the Billy Bob Thornton speech, right? The highest peak of Freemasonry is when you can say you are the perfect Freemason. And when you can say you are the perfect Freemason is when you can say that you did as much as you could and fought as hard as you could to make your lodge a success. It's not even third degree, right? Like a lot of people will say that, will say it's the third degree. And I understand why they say that. But I think you can reach the peak of Freemasonry as an entered apprentice, honestly. Let me see if I can find what I wrote, what I said about that. It was, I think I called it Be Perfect. Well, people will say third degree a lot. That tends to be the answer. And they're not wrong. Like that was my answer for years. For years and years, my answer was third degree. But now, what I would say, and I don't know if you ever saw this movie Rondo, but not the TV show, the movie Friday Night Lights. There's a speech at the end, right? This is the coach to his players. For a long time now, you've been hearing me talk about being perfect. Well, I want you to understand something. To me, being perfect is not about that scoreboard out there. It's not about winning. It's about you and your relationship to yourself and your family and your friends. Being perfect is about being able to look your friends in the eye and know that you didn't let them down because you told them the truth. And that truth is that you did everything that you could. There was one more thing that you could have done. Can you live in that moment as best you can with clear eyes and love in your heart, with joy in your heart? If you can do that, gentlemen, then you're perfect. I want you to take a moment. I want you to look each other's eyes. I want you to put each other in your hearts forever, because forever is about to happen in just a few minutes. My heart is full. For me, that speech encapsulates the idea of Masonic perfection. Masonic perfection isn't about delivering perfect ritual. It isn't about getting it right every time, or even most of the time. It's not even about getting to the third degree or the 33rd degree. Masonic perfection is about a Mason's relationship with himself, his brothers, and his lodge. It's about the ability for a Mason to look his brothers in the eye and know he didn't let them down, that he gave as much as he could to make his lodge a success, that he gave as much as he could to make Freemasonry a success, that there wasn't one more thing he could have done for his lodge in particular or Freemasonry in general. If a Mason can do that with clear eyes and love in his heart, with joy in his heart, then he is perfect, and he has reached the peak of Freemasonry. I will, just so people can see this, and if you guys want to check out this article that I wrote or the story I wrote, I hope that you will hit on or click on this link here. 7 votes. So that is the peak of Freemasonry. It's being perfect. And being perfect means being able to look your brothers in the eye and know you didn't let them down. Are you selling your password this weekend? Yes, 14%. No, 86%. Okay. Let's give it a couple more minutes. I was at 2,060 subscribers. Now I'm back down, I think, to 2,059. So I was almost there at 2,060. Let's see if we can get back up there. Just got one away. Hey, Cameron. Hey, Harry Bacharach. Thank you for being here. I truly appreciate it. As always, I hope you're going to have a great weekend. And to everybody joining, I'm one subscriber away from 2,060. The peak is the 360th 0 degree. There you go. That is the peak, 360/0. Though I guess that wouldn't be a peak so much as a circle. I always used to laugh when people would get it mixed up and they'd say he got turned around 360 degrees, which would mean he ended up right back where he started. What you really want to say is he got turned around 180 degrees, which is more accurate in terms of, how far people potentially can get turned around. But if you are just joining us, welcome. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Exactly. And we talk about Freemasonry, positive, negative, neutral. So anything you guys want to jump in the chat, let me know. I will do my best to try and answer the questions. I can't make any promises. I don't know everything. But I've been a Freemason since 2007, and I like to think I have at least some answers. Hypothetically speaking, if we didn't go to the moon and the Freemasons were responsible, would you still be part of that organization? I'm not sure what you mean by that, but yes. Like, do you mean if we didn't go to the moon and the Freemasons were responsible for spreading the hoax that we went to the moon? I mean, yes, but it's kind of a moot question because we did go to the moon and the Freemasons had nothing to do with it, except Buzz Aldrin was a Freemason. So that's a cool little piece of historical tidbit. Are you celebrating, right? Because, Freemasons do a lot of things I disagree with. Not Freemasonry as a whole, but individual Freemasons do plenty of stuff that I disagree with. That's my, it's kind of like saying, if you found out Canada did something you didn't like, would you still be a Canadian? It's like, of course, because I love Canada. Despite the fact that there are Canadians, including the government, does things I don't always approve of, I'm still very proud to be a Canadian, and I think there is something in this country that is good, that is worth fighting for, and I feel the same way about Freemasonry. Looks like 7 no's, one yes. Who holds back the electric car? Yes, Rondo. We have the stone cutters slash Homer the Great. Um, I don't believe Neil Armstrong was. I've never heard that he was, put it that way. Now, that's not to say he wasn't or was. I was always under the understanding he was not. Let me just check. There is no definitive proof to confirm or deny it, according to Google. So in cases like that, I tend to be very hesitant. And certainly, if he never said he was, I'll tend to assume he wasn't, because I don't want to, assign membership to an organization that somebody wasn't a member of, because it also kind of disvalues actually having a membership. If you can just point to anybody and just say he's a Freemason, without any proof and without him ever saying it. Um, Same reason why I'm not a big fan of, because historically you'll hear people say like, so and so, even nowadays if someone says they're a Mason, I will take them at their word, but I'll usually, if I met them, I'd, the grip, things like that, do the tests, or modes of recognition. But in historically speaking, if somebody says they're a Mason, but there's no other proof, no lodge documents, nothing else written, I tend to be very, very hesitant about it. So for example, I think Manly P. Hall is the one where he like traveled to Mexico, came back and said while he was in Mexico he became a Mason, but there's never any proof provided. Nobody else in Mexico seemed to have any record of him being a Mason. So I tend to be highly questionable about that. Well, I mean, I know because I'm like a member of Tranquility Lodge, Terry Backer. I'm a member of Tranquility Lodge 2000, which has in its dues card, it has a picture of the moon. Because again, Grand Lodge of Texas, because of course they would do this. The Grand Lodge of Texas claimed the moon as their jurisdiction. And one day they hope to meet on the moon, but I think it's going to be probably several decades, if not centuries, before that can happen. Though I hope one day it does very much. Very, very much. I think it'd be incredible. Um, I think I looked up a picture of that in the past as well. I mean, but there was a couple of Masons who went to the moon, two that I can think of off the top of my head. And the fact that a Mason got on the moon number two, I think is pretty impressive. Sometimes silver is a pretty impressive. Maybe it was Aleister Crowley I was thinking of, but there was somebody who he's a famous like what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of spiritualist type of thing, and he traveled the world and he traveled to Mexico, and at some point I think when he left Mexico he said he became a Mason, but no one else has any proof of it or like anything in lodge. Well, I mean, people say sworn to secrecy. I mean, I'm a Mason. I was sworn to secrecy, but the secrecy to which I was sworn relates to signs, tokens, the modes of recognition. It doesn't stop me from saying I'm a Freemason and talking about my Masonic journey and why I love it. And, there are some Masons who approve of podcasts, some who disapprove, but no one has ever tried to stop me from doing a podcast and saying I'm a Mason. And I've had several interviews with other Masons and they know it's going to be in a public forum. So the whole secrecy thing is kind of over discussed, even amongst Masons, to be honest. There you go. That must be what happened, Rondo. The Texas had a falling out with the Galactic Grand Lodge. One day I would genuinely love it if we had, I do truly believe a future in which humanity is multiplanetary is a really good thing, would make the world a better place, would make humanity a better place. And I would love it if one day we had Freemasons on Mars, Freemasons on the moon, Freemasons spread across the galaxy. I think that would be pretty incredible. Um, and something I would be very, very proud to see. And so maybe one day we'll get galactic Freemasonry. Who knows? Except William Morgan was killed for revealing the path. He may have been killed by Freemasons, to be honest. I am agnostic on that point. I There is some pretty good evidence to say that he was, but in fairness, many Freemasons, are foolish, were foolish. I don't think they ever even found his body, right? He just disappeared in like 1826, and no one knows where his body was. It's possible, and if it did happen, that would be a sign that the Freemasons of 1826 needed to calm the F down. But what I can say is, since I've joined, no one's ever told me not to say I'm a Freemason or not to talk about Freemasonry. And many brothers and non-brothers have at this point exposed the secrets. They're all over Twitter, for better or worth. What's the See, so nobody knows for sure, but I'm not disputing the fact it's possible. What's the point then? Well, I think, Harry, you are looking at things outwardly when you should be looking at them about the relationship you have or I have with myself and not with my brothers. So, what I mean by that is, and I've used this example before, Harry. Let's imagine my family has a family recipe that my great grandparents gave to my grandparents, gave to my parents, gave to me, and I plan to bring them to, future generations of my family. And let's say somehow somebody takes a picture of this recipe and posts it online for everybody to see. I could then say, well, it's already been revealed anyway, so who cares? I might as well just reveal the recipe as well and pass it on to other people. Or I could say, you know what? This still means something to me, even though anybody can see it. This still matters to me, and I'm going to keep it a secret or keep it within my family so I can at least say I did it, right? Like, I can't control what other people do. I can only control what I do. And by me choosing to keep the modes of recognition secret, it's my way of maintaining doing what I can to maintain the connection between past Masons and future Masons, right? And if other people don't have the same views, that's okay. I can't control what other people do. I can only control what I do. Maybe my family is mafia. Who knows? No, they're not mafia, and neither are Freemasons, right? I'm sure there's been in the past Masons who were mafia members. Anything's possible. I wouldn't, I'm sure there's been all sorts of Masons. None of it I've ever known of, but anything is possible. But to me, secrets or private things between family members, the one thing Freemasonry has to pass down to future generations of Freemasons are our modes of recognitions, our secrets. And if we just say, I'm just going to hand them out willy-nilly, what I'm saying is I don't respect the brothers who will come in the future enough to keep them private for them, right? And so, because again, I've used this example before. I never knew my grandfather. He passed away before I was born on my dad's side. The fact that him and I went through the same Masonic rituals and know the same secrets makes me feel connected to him in a way I wouldn't feel if he had passed. If anybody could get the secrets, and if I was just handing them out willy-nilly. So, and again, at the end of the day, I can't control what other people do. I can only make up my mind for myself, make my decisions in what I think is the best way to respect the craft and respect the brothers of both the past, the present, and the future. So when people say things like, what's the point? I mean, at the end of the day, the point is about you. It's just like what I said in that Be Perfect quote. It's not about other people. It's about the relationship between myself and my brothers. And can I look my brothers in the eye and say I did everything I could to maintain the craft? And keeping the secrets is one of the ways that I can say that. I saw an interview here on YouTube of former capo in the Colombo family. He very clearly talked about his Masonic affiliation before. So anything's possible. Like I said, it would not shock me at all if at different points in history there have been members of the mafia who've been Freemasons. It would not shock me at all if there have been members of the circus who've been Freemasons. Like, you know, I think anything is possible, but to me, you shouldn't be a member of the mafia and a member of the Freemasons, because one thing Freemasonry talks about, and I truly believe this, is Freemasons should care about and follow the laws and respect the laws of the country where they live, or which offers them protection for a period of time. So I I it would be, if you're breaking the laws or breaking the laws, it's tough for me to imagine you make a good Freemason. But you may join and not tell them you're a member of the mafia, obviously, or whatever it might be. What about the infiltration of the Illuminati into Freemasonry? Well, I mean, I don't think the Illuminati exists anymore, to be honest. And of course, if I was a member, that's what I'd say. So take that for whatever you want. They were founded in 1776. They, use the all-seeing eye as their reference point, but so do a lot of secret organizations or secret societies. I don't know if they still exist anymore at all. But they were around, 1776. He found Freemasonry, the owner, too expensive, so he started his own group as kind of an anti-Masonic group in some ways. Which is funny, we always get lumped into, Illuminati and Freemasons always get lumped together, even though Illuminati was started as like an anti-Masonic group in some ways. I don't know what Noahide laws means. Tell Ken I say hello. I hope that he enjoyed being on the podcast in the past. And I hope that he is doing well. And I don't know if he's going to the 150th, but tell him if he is, I look forward to seeing him. And like I was saying, I'm sure there's been members of the mafia or members of Freemasonry in the past, but they shouldn't be. And I would not want, again, to be a Freemason. One of the things we're taught is to be respectful of the laws of the country, either in which we live or which offers us its protections. So if I'm traveling to another country, I should be respectful of the laws of that country. And certainly being in the mafia would not be so. And I don't really know what infiltration of the Illuminati means. Because again, it's funny, Illuminati was kind of started as an anti-Masonic group in some ways. Now, there are some people who joined both Illuminati and Freemasonry, and also Rosicrucianism and Rosicrucianism Society, but, I don't know what that means. I hope that says you're looking good, Cameron, because I always try to look good, Do you think most Masons are Masons before they join? Well, so we talk about in Freemasonry the idea of before you can be a Freemason by joining, you have to be a Freemason in your heart and in your soul. And so you could argue in some ways, yes, like certainly they have to be predisposed to it in some ways, but at the end of the day, like at a certain point to be a Mason, you have to join. Like you can be predisposed to Masonry, you can have a love of Masonry, you can be supportive of Freemasonry before you join, which is 100% appropriate. But, if somebody came up to me and said, they haven't joined yet, but they're a Mason, I wouldn't share with them the secrets or modes of recognition. They need a dues card, they need to be part of a lodge. Cosa Nostra was allowed to flourish in the 20th century because they helped naval intelligence. I did not know that, Rondo Ellsworth. So that is very, very interesting. So you're right, Strange Bedfellows is definitely a very interesting point. Masonic law usurps constitutional. I've never understood that. Masonic law does not usurp constitutional law, at least not in my experience in any event. I don't know what admiralty means in terms of usurping law of the land. Um, at least in my experience, it never has. So if I don't know why, but if the Masons were to say commit this crime in violation of, you know, Canadian law, my response would be no. And I would bring that up with the Grand Master of our jurisdiction, who I assume would pull the charter of the lodge. Because if they're telling you to do illegal things, then that lodge should not exist. Um, so, yeah. Now, that's not to say, how do I put this? So, for example, in times of war, you hear about you've got a mason on one side, a mason on the other side. They discover that they're masons, and maybe if one is captured, he lets them go, but that's acting within a general's discretion or a soldier's discretion, right? There's no rule that says a soldier has to keep every prisoner or whatever it is. He may do the same thing if he finds out that they both went to the same school or high school or whatever it is, like you see in the Civil War, or even in World War II. You had a lot of Americans, unfortunately, who ended up having to travel back to Germany if they had German ancestry, or their parents were German, moved to America. They ended up moving back and fighting, on the German side, and a lot of those were captured and then, released. That was actually came up in Band of Brothers, the TV show, where I saw a clip of it. So, but I said that to say strange bedfellows isn't a new concept. No, it's not. And I did not know that. I'd love to learn more history about that. The idea of the Cosa Nostra helping naval intelligence in World War II. The World War II made for many strange bedfellows, right? Look at, you would not expect necessarily America and Russia to be allies. Certainly, if you look at what's happening, in the Cold War, but at the time, there was a pretty obvious and bigger threat that had to be dealt with. So it's just interesting. War makes strange bedfellows. Politics makes strange bedfellows. Heck, Freemasonry makes strange bedfellows. A lot of the brothers I would not have known at all or be friends with them were it not for Freemasonry, because we come from different backgrounds, different jobs, different families, different histories. Yet we manage to become friends through and brothers through Freemasonry. So, as always, if you are just joining and haven't done so yet, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you guys are doing and what it is that you want to talk about. Eight votes. Looks like 7 no's, 1 yes. So if you are celebrating Passover, I wish you a calm, peaceful, and joyous Passover. I will. I don't know what the Noahide Lodge are, but I'll look it up. I'm hesitant when you say, talking about Zionism again. Freemasonry in World War II, especially due to Hitler, got linked in a lot with kind of the Jewish conspiracies and Zionism. There are many Jewish Freemasons, and again, talking about Passover, right? There are many Jewish Freemasons. I'm actually a member of a lodge in Israel, Holy Land Lodge number 50, but Freemasonry is not specific to any one religion or one political ideology. I would agree with Courtney, what you're saying there. I think you are correct. The focus within Freemasonry is on shared rituals and traditions. And Freemasonry does operate under different Grand Lodges, each with its own traditions and regulations. There are many shared, but there are many unique dependent on the jurisdiction. So yeah. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know how you are doing, and let me know how you're doing, and let me know what it is you guys want to chat about. I do these streams every Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern. This is the Ask Us Anything stream. So anything that you guys want to chat about, Friday streams are usually that. Anything, and maybe I mentioned here, are you are you celebrating Passover? I'd be love to know, is your lodge doing anything to celebrate Passover or mentioning anything on social media? Um, the intrigued within the history help explain the dynamics of today, I believe. I just saw an interview with um, a former Mason. I mean, I would say maybe even more than 80%, but I would need to know more kind of what you mean when you say 80%. Like, what do you mean by business stuff, right? Because, um, like, when you say business, do you mean business in terms of making money? Because it's usually not about that, but business in terms of the business of operating a lodge, yeah, might be 80%. Business in terms of like, what are the minutes? What are the correspondence? Do we have any bills we have to pay? How are we keeping the lights on? Like, is anybody sick? Is anybody ill? Does anybody need any help? Anybody can't make it to lodge that we should check on? You know, if you have a building and maybe you want to change the light bulbs to make more energy efficient light bulbs, right? Like, I've always said this, and I still really believe this. One of the greatest skills you can have as a Freemason is the willingness and the ability to be bored. Yes, boring stuff, you're absolutely right. I think very often but boring doesn't mean unimportant, and boring doesn't mean not necessary, right? Like the minutes matter, correspondence matters. Is your lodge up to all the appropriate codes, the fire codes, the building codes? Is it in compliance with those things? Do you have the proper licenses and permits? Let's say your building has a banquet hall. Is your banquet hall licensed for holding public events? How many people can fit? Like all that stuff matters, right? And yes, it's boring and uninteresting, but it's still incredibly important and it still matters. Do you have an elevator? Is the elevator licensed? Etc., 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 right? We need to be, we in Freemasonry, I think, need to be more willing to be bored. I think it's unfortunate sometimes that we think every meeting needs to be super fun and super exciting and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it needs to be that, and it should be that, but sometimes you need to be willing to be bored. It's like work. Like, not every day at work is going to be super fun and exciting, but it doesn't mean you can't find value in the work you're doing. Administration is the word. Yes, administration is a great word. That's perfect. What are your thoughts? First of all, Mick Dodge, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Mick Dodge, I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't done so yet, because I don't recall you've been here before. So it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you so much for joining. What are my thoughts on Albert Pike? I'm currently in the process actually of rereading or re-listening to Morals and Dogma. Thank you so much for that. I shouldn't even say rereading, re-listening to, because it's actually an audiobook. Not only is it an audiobook, but you can get it for free on YouTube if you want to read it. What are my thoughts on Albert Pike? Important Masonic thinker, specifically important to the Scottish Rite. Got a lot of stuff, I think, incorrect, although some of that is more how he's interpreted. Like, he famously called, Freemasonry the universal religion, but I think people misinterpret what that means and often do. Um, was People don't realize this, was actually a supporter of Prince Hall Masonry, which a lot of people tend not to understand. But he was a supporter of Prince Hall Freemasonry, actually. Overall, I think any Mason's Masonic career will be improved through a reading of Morals and Dogma, but you need to be very careful that you try to recognize and understand what he's saying and not always take what he says super literally. Like when he talks about the universal religion or even Luciferianism and what that means. You know, he came from a time and a practice that separated Satan, the biblical figure, from Lucifer, the light bringer, which more referenced Lucifer more as a um, Prometheus figure, and Satan, the angel, is a different figure. So I would say valuable, but not always correct, and sometimes misinterpreted. Hopefully, I hope that helps answer your question, McDodge. Thank you for being here. Prince Hall affiliation is an American phenomenon. Yes, in Canada, in Ontario at least, there are many Prince Hall lodges. They are recognized, so they're not clandestine. Prince Hall, Ontario is a vital part of the Masonic craft, and Prince Hall Freemasonry in general is a vital part of the Masonic craft. One thing, I have kind of mixed feelings about the origins of Prince Hall in that it's a shame that it started from the exclusion of Prince Hall into Freemasonry. I wish that hadn't happened. But um, on the other hand, it created, because of that initial denial, it ended up being the basis of the formation of Prince Hall Freemasonry, which is an incredibly valuable and an incredibly important part of the Masonic craft and Freemasonry. So it's like out of something bad came something really, really good, and something I'm proud to say is part of our Masonic family, and is, something we have Masonic recognition with, which I think is awesome and wonderful. What about Pike saying the lower Masons don't know squat? Well, I mean, he was wrong. That's one of the things he was wrong about. But also, I mean, define lower Mason, because I am a 18th degree Mason, and a worshipful master several times over, and a past master several times over. You could say, you have to wait till you're the 33rd degree Mason. But I found even when you make it to 33rd degree Mason, some of the conspiracy theorists, not saying you are, Harry, but some of the conspiracy theorists will say even 33rd degree isn't the true top of the thing. So it's like, what I find with that is lower Mason is defined almost always as whatever the brother is. So if I had a 33rd degree Mason on here, like Bon Soto, and he was talking about his career, people will be saying, well, he's not a true 33rd. And so it's like, just like I'm 18th, but that's not high enough. It's like you're never high enough to not be a lower Mason when it comes to our conspiracy-minded fellows. So what I would say is I'm 18th. I feel like that is high enough for me to know a fair bit, as well as being a master, past master, installing master. But I know for some, that's not sufficient. So, what? It's one of those things where it's like, what can you do? So I mean, people can say a lot of things. I, I would call, BS or baloney on them if I were to meet them. I've never met anybody calling themselves a 91st or 92nd degree Mason. I mean, there could be any number of, so first, they could be clandestine, which is somebody created an order. Somebody created a Masonic order in their garage and are, handing out 91st, 92nd degrees. They could be clandestine and not know any better, or they could just be full of baloney. I've never heard of or met a 91st or 92nd degree. It doesn't even make sense to me, like logically. Like, I could understand in theory there being a 99th degree, because 33rd degree, people always say it's the highest. Three is a very important number, both in terms of just math as well as in terms of Freemasonry. So I can imagine like 3 times 33 is 99, but like why stop at 90? Why stop at 92? Right? It seems like a weird number to have. I don't know. I've never heard of a 91st and 92nd degree. It does not seem like a thing to me at all. So I don't get it, but you know, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's saying they're a millionth degree Freemason. Like who knows? You know, you can't. People are kind of crazy. Yes, I am 18th degree, which means I am Knight of Rose Croix, and that is as far as I'm willing to go because I'm very, very busy and I don't want to go any higher. Um, Despite the fact that maybe it's true I don't know squat. That's very possible. Fair enough. Thank you. I don't. Oh, happy 420. Happy 420 to you as well. Although having said that, I'm very boring. I've never. My drug of choices are caffeine. I drink a lot of caffeine. I love coffee, and I used to off and on. I used to smoke, though I haven't smoked for several years. So cigarettes. Beyond that, though, yeah, I've never done anything else. So I'm very boring in that way. I do not know what Juvenile 400 Degrees with a Z is, but it sounds awesome. How'd you find your way to the lodge? So, McDodge, I gotta check in on that then. Cash Money Millionaires. They did a song for wrestling, if I recall correctly, a WrestleMania theme song, which I really thought was cool. Um, how'd you find your way to lodge? So, you don't have to be a family member, but my dad was a Freemason, and so I always assumed sooner or later I would join. Um, I didn't know necessarily when, but when I realized I was going to be spending more time in Windsor, Ontario, I decided that was the time to join. So I happened to just pass by the Masonic Temple one day and sent in a letter saying I'd be interested in joining. And the rest is kind of history. They wrote me a letter back and set up a time, and that was the end of it. So I always assumed I would join, though, at some point. And once I found the building, nowadays you would use Google um, to just search like Masons in my area or whatever it is. But at the time, I mean, Google was the thing in 2007 when I joined, obviously. But I personally just happened to pass by it one day. So maybe it was fortuitous. Maybe it was kind of always meant to be. Who knows? But I was, yeah, I feel very lucky. It's an album by a rapper called Juvenile. 400 Degrees is the name of the album. I will check it out for sure. Maybe he's a Mason and he's part of a special degree I don't know about at all. Who knows? Um, Though, I mean, I am so busy, I cannot imagine being a 400-degree Mason. The number of degrees you would have to attend seems like a lot. Seems like it might be kind of crazy, to be honest. And I am busy and I like sleeping and I don't like doing things, so I have no time to join 400 degrees. Thank you to everybody who's joined. McDodge, thank you for your questions. I hope I was able to answer your questions as best as I could. If you haven't done so yet, I hope that you will, as always, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and anything that you guys want to talk about. I think I'm going to be ending the stream at 5 Eastern, or maybe a little bit earlier than that, actually, maybe 4:30, because that will give me time to head to the temple because I have got a couple of fun events tonight. I am sure that there are some Masons doing some questionable things, but I'm also sure that there are some plumbers doing questionable things. There's approximately 850,000 Freemasons in America, to my knowledge, at the moment. I am sure when you have that many of anything, there is a percentage doing some questionable things. You hope not, obviously. And I wish that wasn't the case, but, you know. And hopefully, if there are, then the Masonic group to which he's a member is dealing with it appropriately by either, kicking him out of the craft or calling the police, if, depending how questionable it is, who knows. But no Masonic law should ever act, and to my knowledge, none do, should ever, try to protect a brother from the law if he's committing some type of criminal offenses, nor should they be encouraging or rewarding criminal offenses. Some used to be more, but I wish all the police were Freemasons, to be honest, just because then we'd have more numbers. But when we have 850,000 Freemasons in America, there's way more police than that, right? And as somebody who's known several police officers, well, I used to work in the jail, right? I used to work not in the jail, I used to work in a jail, and I was a probation officer. So I knew several law enforcement officers, one of whom was a Freemason, but that was the extent of it. So, I mean, again, I would always avoid speaking in generalities, because usually speaking in generalities is kind of a shortcut to thinking. So some are, the majority, at least in my experience, are not. But again, that doesn't mean they're all not Freemasons. So you kind of got to take what you can with a grain of salt. Let's give it another, let's say, 5 minutes. But thank you so much to everybody who has been on the stream so far. I think next week, one thing I'm going to talk about is the TV show The Pit. Well, in the context of the lodge, and so long as it doesn't interfere with any other rules and requirements. So, like I'm a worshipful master. I couldn't call my warden today, like right now, we're not in lodge, and say, like, go get me 50 donuts and bring them to the lodge. I mean, I guess I could ask him to do it. But if he said no, I would not have any authority to, like, kick him out of the craft or something. So, and if during a lodge, I ask him to, I don't know, jump off the roof of the building, he again could say no, and I wouldn't have any recourse. It's very specific, right? It's in the course of his Masonic duties during lodge. Now, hopefully, because I am the worshipful master, he, and let's say I need him to help me out with a Masonic event that I'm planning or organizing or getting something ready, hopefully he would have enough respect for me in my position that if I were to call him and say, like, I need your help with X, can you go pick up 50 donuts? He will say yes, and he will help me out. But again, can't force him, and nor should you be able to. That's up to you as a worshipful master to get the respect of the brethren that they are willing to help you out. And that's the test of leadership as much as it is anything else, right? If you're not willing to test, if you're kind of an a-hole as a worshipful master, then good luck getting the wardens to do anything, whether, you ask them to or not. Everything is a test. Everything is a test, for better or worse. Probably for worse in some ways. 50 keys of donuts. I mean, but I would love 50 keys of donuts. Somebody asked me above, Courtney asked me, like, what my comfort food is. It was coffee and donuts, which it absolutely is, but a close second, it was coffee and pie, which it absolutely is. But a close second would be coffee and donuts. So I very much wish there was something in, like, our Masonic ritual that said, like, if the worshipful master calls you and says, bring coffee and donuts to him, that he does so right away. That would be a wonderful thing. I wish that were to happen more often, but sadly, I cannot force anybody to bring me coffee and donuts. Now, if you want to support me on Patreon, and in doing so, um, I can afford to purchase coffee and donuts more frequently, that would be wonderful and would be truly appreciated. But yeah, I can't force anybody to do that for me. But Harry, if you want to help me out, join my Patreon, send me $3 a month, and I'll get, at least some coffee and donuts. Thank you so much, Harry. Truly, truly appreciated. And I appreciate you saying a wholesome guy. I try to be. Heaven knows I fail often, fail all the time, but I try my best, which I guess is all we can do. Oh, I love Dunkin' Donuts. Now you're making me jealous, Harry. I, you know, look, I love being Canadian, but I wish here in Canada we had more access to Dunkin' Donuts, because Dunkin', in my opinion, is the best coffee and pretty decent donuts too. But Dunkin' coffee is so good, and so under appreciated, in my oh so humble opinion. Especially a couple years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I was in Las Vegas, and they just happened, it was in like December, and they just happened to have Dunkin' Holiday Blend, which I had some. It was so good. So genuinely, now you're just making me jealous. I also think Dunkin' Donuts has pretty good coffee. Sorry, pretty good donuts too. Um, not as good as like some artisanal donut shops out there that have the really, really good donuts, but still pretty good for like fast food donut place. But nowadays they have donuts that are just crazy fancy, um, comparatively speaking. Let's give it another, let's say, couple minutes. Let's see if anybody else jumps in the chat to say hello. No worry, Courtney. Although I will be doing another one of those live streams where we actually have people call in as well. But you can always join for free in the meantime. But there's no rush, and I'll keep you informed, Courtney, of when we're doing the next Patreon only stream. Welcome though. It's been a great live stream, especially because we managed to get some new people on the stream, which I always truly appreciate. So let's give it just a couple more minutes. Let's see if anybody else jumps in the chat to say hello. Otherwise, I get to travel to the beautiful Windsor Masonic Temple for two very special events tonight, and hopefully, you guys will be able to check out some of my content this weekend. My personal account, my live stream, Midnight Movie Watch Along, and Sunday at 6, I hope to be able to produce something else. And if I do, you'll see it on social media, the announcement, another like podcast here on this channel. Um, and as always, one last wish, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It's been great as well, Courtney. Thank you so much. I believe we'll all be taking off now. I'll end this stream. Great stream, though. I loved it. Hope to see you guys all again soon. Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern for our next regular live.